Hey guys, welcome to 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description. And here's what I need you to do. Make sure you subscribe to the Volumes YouTube channel to stay up to date to everything we're doing here on 3 and Out and the Volume. Okay, one of the biggest stories of the weekend actually happened on the Thursday night game. And the last that I talked about it was for the Friday podcast. We just knew Russell was hurt, but we didn't know how long he was going to be out. And first and foremost, it turns out right now, report 6 to 8 weeks. Maybe he could be back before. If you saw his Instagram, you saw his Twitter, he got surgery. He's got a big cast on his hand. He can be a little cheesy for my liking. Sometimes he feels very much like a politician, like he's trying to say the right things. And part of it, I know that he's chasing greatness. And I think when you do that, you have to get yourself in this kind of weird headspace, and you sound a little different than most of us. Now, like, my pushback would be, like, I've never chased, like, Hall of Fame greatness at quarterback, but, like, I think a lot of us, many people that are listening to us, we are ambitious people. We're always chasing and wired to do more, to get better, to try to improve. I think a lot of people, that follow sports are wired like that in their own business mindset, where it's like you can just talk like a normal, like Peyton Manning just talked like a normal guy. And we knew that he was, like, neurotic about how hard he worked at his sport, right? So, I don't think you always need to act that cheesy, but that's kind of his deal. But I don't think we often, I definitely don't articulate, and I don't think we spend enough time when we talk about quarterbacks. We talk so much about their physical attributes, how good their arm is, how athletic they are, how accurate they are. But I say it all the time, the most underrated attribute a quarterback can have is toughness, and Russell Wilson's toughness is elite. He had never missed a game up until potentially this week, right? He has been one of the most durable players in the league. Every single season when the year started, you just assumed he was going to play 16 games and be ready to go for the playoffs. He never missed snaps. I don't ever remember him coming out of a game. But anyone who's broken a finger or broken a toe, I know I broke a toe, some of the most pain I've ever been in. I swear to God, I was almost in tears. And I remember going to the doctor, who was also a doctor for the Warriors before and the Oakland Raiders. And I remember asking him, kind of sarcastically, but like, if I had to start this weekend, if I was an NFL player, could I play? He laughed at me. He's like, of course you would play. We'd wrap it up, we'd shoot you up, and you'd rock and roll. And for like a month, I limped around San Francisco. It was when I was working in radio, and I'd take the train, and then I'd walk to work. I remember limping. I was in so much pain. I never once saw Russell Wilson show any sign of pain. Now, I understand there's an adrenaline factor. You're so locked in. But like toughness, you can question his cheesiness, and you can question sometimes he acts a little weird. But from a talent standpoint, no one really does, right? He's an elite player. But from a toughness standpoint, I don't know if Russell quite gets enough credit. Now, Seattle's in trouble. They're in major trouble. And we talked about this on Friday's podcast. I think Pete Carroll's in trouble. It's a flawed team. It's a team built like the NBA, right? They're very dependent on, really, Russell Wilson, right? He's kind of their LeBron James. He makes average rosters look a lot better because he's a fucking magician. He's one of the all-time great players. And now, who knows how long he's out. The other thing is, this is not an injury that even if he can come back a little earlier than we think, it is still a finger in which he grips the football with. And when he came out of that game, the more I thought about it over the weekend, he tried to go back, but he was in so much pain that he couldn't do that. And I saw one of the quotes I saw on Friday was Pete was like, Russell's understood that he was going to hurt the team if he stayed in. He couldn't play at a high level. I think their team could implode because we know Geno Smith isn't very good, but their roster isn't very good. They're not built to handle a quarterback missing games. And you could argue no team is. If you have Josh Allen, if you have Patrick Mahomes, if you have Aaron Rodgers, if you have Tom Brady, if you have Russell Wilson, and they disappear for, let's just say, 6 games, you should lose 5 of them. You really should. Now, maybe the Bucs, because their defense is so legit, maybe their defense isn't quite as good with all these, cornerback injuries. But, a team that's really, the Saints a couple years ago with Teddy Bridgewater, they were a well-rounded team. They were good on special teams. Their defense was really good, and they handled it. I think they went 6-0 without Drew Brees. That's not the way Seattle's built. They've traded 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. He can't cover a soul. Bobby Wagner is getting up there in age. Their defense right now, I mean, I've seen a bunch of stats. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, the yards they're giving up per play, the yards they're giving up per game, they're atrocious. Now, I think sometimes yards is a little overrated. Like, how many points are they giving up? Because I looked up, they were right in that game. It's not like the Rams had 40 points. But Seattle has been one of the most consistent teams in the league. They have made the playoffs every single season since Russell has been there, except one, and that one year they went 9-7. All they do is win. Now they're going to start losing. And I think the question is, like, I have a hard time seeing Pete Carroll back next year, especially if they go like 6-11. And a huge reason would be because Russell missed all these games, but he's 70 years old. He's not an offensive guy. He might have hired the wrong offensive coordinator. I'm getting a lot of people DMing me, and I know Seattle fans have been wondering about Pete's future just in general. Is it time? Now, I think the elephant in the room will be, is Russell obsessed with his brand and getting to a bigger market? Does he want to get himself to a New York? You know, Dallas is off the table. I don't even know. You know, Vegas probably off the table too, you'd think, but who knows? That to me is the question. Because it does feel like this thing's going to potentially be a train wreck. They might start losing some of these games really badly. It might look really, really ugly. Hell, they were losing games when Russell was playing. They lost to the Titans when Russell was playing. They were, for a half getting their ass kicked by the Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance Niners when Russell was playing. So they didn't look that good with Russell in the game. Now you remove him, you put Geno in. The question, every snap you watch of Seattle without Russell, just ask yourself, like, Pete, he's 70 years old. It just feels like maybe it's time. Now, the problem is going to be if you're John Schneider, you have to approach this like an NBA team. Russell, what do you want? Russell, what do you need? Because your entire franchise, no matter, listen, how cheesy the guy is, his talent, his ability to keep the franchise afloat is your only hope. Without him, your franchise is a train wreck. With him, you can compete to make the playoffs every single year. I think John Schneider is a good GM. I know he's had some whiffs. Every general manager has. I think he has to find a way now to balance this. Get in Russell's ear. I am your guy. I want to help build this thing with you. The problem, though, is they don't have their first-round pick. Joe Douglas might have struck oil by trading Russell Wilson, getting Seattle's first. What if that pick is like the 10th overall pick? All of a sudden, the Jets have the 3rd pick and the 10th pick? That's a big-time trade for Jamal Adams. Now, you never in a million years would have imagined, because Russell had never missed a game, you probably were expecting that pick to be 22. But sometimes it happened with Laramie Tunsil and the Miami Dolphins. Sometimes you strike oil. Sometimes that team implodes, and then you profit. But the key for Schneider is going to be, you probably need to end your partnership with Pete and buddy up with Russell Wilson. And obviously, the big reason Russell Wilson became a Seattle Seahawk was because John Schneider pounded the table. He was the main reason he became a Seattle Seahawk. But, he's also Pete's partner. So it's a tough spot for him. If I was recommending or advising Schneider, I would say I might start separating myself from Pete. Tough situation. Owner passed away. I think the daughter runs it now, Paul Allen's daughter. I don't know all the ownership dynamics. That obviously comes into play when it comes to, you're not going to fire Pete to pay him go away. You'd like to force him into retirement. And Pete, has got to be the youngest 70-year-old ever, so that could be difficult. But that to me is what I'm keeping an eye on. John Schneider, the dynamics of how this thing's playing out, because I think it's clear where we're headed. Thanks for watching 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description. And make sure you subscribe right now to the Volumes YouTube channel.